So about a day and a half later with the World 14 release, I will be making a comprehensive guide on the information I personally know and from my personal experiences doing World 14 as of right now for you guys to help you guys out that are struggling with World 14. So now we'll do a disclaimer, and that's basically there's not going to be entirely all the information here. I'm going to miss something in here because there's mechanics and stuff I'm not aware about, or like better ships out there that I can use. Feel free to just drop a comment and be like, listen, you can use this as well too. Just to help out, okay? I'm not going to cover everything in here, so don't be all nitpicky about it. It's basically what I know as of right now in my personal experiences with clearing World 14, alright? So that being said, let's get right into it. So the introduction of World 14, let's talk about the stuff you should prepare beforehand before you actually go about World 14. First of all, probably the biggest thing right here are going to be your cognitive arrays. So these things right here, they added them about 2 weeks ago. These are very, very limited. And if you guys didn't plan accordingly on how to use them, I'm sorry. You probably can clear with the minimal 120s, but it's going to be a lot harder. The more 125s you have in the game, for specific parties, the easier it is for World 14 clears. Unfortunately though, you don't get these often, and you get about one awakening every about 3 weeks or so, so it's going to be a while before you have those awakenings available. So be patient, it's going to be quite some time before some of you guys have 125s, so plan accordingly. Alright, so use your cognitives wisely and save them. If you don't know what to use them on, save them. Alright, just to help you guys out. Now let's talk about gear here. Gear here, it doesn't have to be over the top. Above average gear is perfectly fine. You don't have to go best in slot all rainbow gear like I did in my previous video, my run in my World 14. It doesn't have to be over the top. Plus 10 gear works here just fine. It does. Plus 10 gear does work here. Now we'll say this though, it has to be somewhat above average, okay? Somewhat above average. So let's say I want to use a battleship. Let's go to FDG. So you don't have to use stack buffers. The shells, I would highly recommend using them. But for rainbow gun, it doesn't have to be the rainbow gun here. You can use like Champagne's gun or something, right? Or Marco Polo's gun if you have to. I recommend using Champagne's gun though because it's a lot better than the other one, but it doesn't have to be over the top. You can also go a notch below and use the Gear Lab AP gun. I believe it was called I think it was a USS gun, the battleship gun right here, this one. You can use this one as well too. It doesn't have to be super over the top. I use over the top stuff because I have it. I'm going to use it if I have it. But you guys don't have to. It does make your life easier though if it's plus 13 and over the top gear. But it doesn't have to be over the top. Alright? So that's for battleships. For carriers though, I highly recommend having some wyverns. Because if you keep up with Operation Siren, you should get a wyvern every 3 weeks, 3 months maximum. When you should have, if you kept up ever since it came out, you should have 3 wyverns by now, or at least roughly about 3 wyverns. 3 wyverns is going to be very important here. That's key. Now, if you guys don't have wyverns, you can use like Douglas torpedo bombers or Avengers as well too. Those work. Helldivers, obviously, yeah. And then you have the typical carrier aviation stuff, right, for auxiliaries. As for fighters, make sure you have Corsairs minimum, and then if you do have the AP rocket planes that I'm using as right now on my Shinano, those will also help too. So grab those, and of course, I'm using them for boss bombing. Make sure you have like Ryuseis or the Ju-87s. Either or works fine here because even though Ju-87 are more accurate because they drop closer, right, and Ryuseis are more likely to miss. Because of how the boss spawns and that there's so many mobs on the field with the boss at the same time, Ryuseis aren't bad here. Even if you miss the boss, you're going to hit the mobs. So you're still going to get value out of it. So either or works fine. Use whatever you have to. Plus 13 isn't necessary, but if you want to use plus 13, go for it. Plus 10 though, make sure everything right here for your gear are plus 13. Now, for large cruisers, I use large cruiser on my boss fleet. You don't have to use it. Heavy cruisers work here too. Make sure you have at least one heavy cruiser for the boss because it'll make your life easier for tanking. If you're not confident with how fast you can kill the boss, have at least one heavy cruiser around. If you are using a large cruiser though, just slap on the regular stuff right here. Whatever gun you have, torpedoes. I'm using boss torpedoes, the HMS Quinns. Anti-air. I highly recommend avoiding the firepower anti-airs, the Dido anti-airs. Use actual anti-airs, guys, like the Sextuple AA or the PR4 one that's on par with it. Use good ones. And I'm going to use evasion and speed as well too. I specifically build for speed because I'm playing on manual, so the faster I am, the better it will be. But since this is going to be a destroyer map towards the end, speed is the least of your concerns because destroyers make your movement speed in combat for your manual vanguard movement a lot faster. You shouldn't worry about speed that much until like the last 2 maps. So that's for large cruiser. Heavy cruiser, just slap on whatever evasion stuff, the usual stuff. Nothing like super over the top. Make sure you have good anti-air, whatever gun you want to use. I specifically recommend using HE gun, the allergy guns or whatever you guys want to call them. Some good HE gun for heavy cruisers, okay here. Light cruisers, I'm personally not a big fan of using light cruisers here. They are good because they do help with killing submarines. But the only light cruiser I actually really use here is Helena. So you guys can ignore that for now. I wouldn't highly recommend it, but if you guys want to use light cruisers, go for it. But destroyers though. Destroyers here are going to be king for the last 2 maps. Destroyers here, depending on what kind of destroyer you use. Obviously the blue gun to get more barrages out. Whatever torpedoes you guys have, I use the magnetic ones, even though I'm playing manual. Use whatever you guys have. Manual, whatever, it doesn't matter because most likely you're gonna hit something because there's so many mobs on the field. You're gonna hit something. So use whatever torpedoes you have. The better +10 them, obviously. Anti-air, make sure you have good anti-air. And health and evasion. I personally wouldn't slot in torpedo stats here because unless you're really confident in your dodging abilities and knowing when to burst and whatnot and can survive multiple fights, you can slot in those auxiliaries. But for the most part, I'm pretty sure some of you guys are struggling out there. Don't do that. Put some health in, put some evasion in, and do all that jazz. Alright, guys. So that's how I recommend you guys build those things. Again, not over the top gear. Doesn't have to be rainbow gear to slot in whatever you guys have. But make sure they're +10 and they're at least above average gear. Alright, above average. Now, for types of ships here. These are gonna be the ships I'm gonna recommend. There's gonna be a lot of options out there, so feel free to use whatever you guys want. But for this video, I'm gonna talk about the ships I personally recommend for using here because it's gonna help you guys out a lot. All right, guys. So the ships I recommend here are gonna be the 3 UR gacha ships. They're basically good to go here for this event or for this map. New Jersey, Shinano, Shimakaze, good, very good here. Now if you have PR ships, they're also very good here. PR ships like Drake, FDG, Marco Polo's even good here. Any PR ship that does like semi-good damage, Georgia is good here. There's a lot of good PR ships here. If you have PR ships, use them. Alright. Now, Helena for bossing, obviously. Helena is really good here. The bosses in World 14 aren't super tanky. You guys will realize that when you actually like start attacking the bosses, they're not that tanky. One Helena scan and like one rotation, the boss basically almost dead. So Helena is good here. And for heavy cruisers, Anchorage, Drake, anyone that's very durable is good here. There's some good USS heavy cruisers as well too, like San Francisco. Bremerton can work here too. Anything that's like durable, has some evasion stats on them. Make sure your front vanguard is durable. And if they can do damage and while being durable, very good. Alright. This goes for boss and your mob fleet. So durability is king for the front slot. Now after that, let's talk more into the other ships you're going to need. So this map, again, the last 2 maps are heavy destroyer focused. There's going to be a lot of ships that you want to prioritize on here. Now, destroyers, Kazugumo, Shimakaze, Udachi are my personal 3 favorites for this event. There's also Kitakaze as well too, and Suzuki or whatever. Basically all IGN stuff for here. So we go to Sakura Empire, we go to destroyers, Kazugumo, Shimakaze, Udachi, Suzuki, Kitakaze, all good choices. Yukikaze could work here too. It's up to you guys. I haven't tried out Ayanami yet. I mean, she could work maybe, but my favorite here are going to be the first 3. The last 3 right here are also viable options as well too. And lastly, let's talk about the carriers. The carriers here are going to be super busted. Battleships, you can do whatever battleships. But carriers here, let's talk about carriers. Percy is a light carrier, but Perseus and Aquila are disgusting here. Super, super disgusting here. So if you guys have Aquila, you guys have Perseus, they're very, very good here. Highly recommend. So those are the ships I recommend to you guys. Again, this can be ran multiple ways, and the longer this map has been out for, the easier it will be once more information is out in the public. For the most part, though, on day one, it was pretty scary for a lot of people, but after about a day or two of just mellowing it out and figure things out, it turns out the map isn't as bad to some of the people that already cleared. It's not super terrible. It is difficult. It is very challenging, but it's not impossible. It is beatable. You just have to apply some certain stuff and a little bit of RNG. All right. Okay, so that is the intro out of the way. That was pretty long. Now let's talk about the in-depth map stuff. All right. So I'm gonna show some footages maybe on World 14 stuff. You guys can follow along with me, but for the most part, it just comes down to mechanics and just knowing how to play the game on manual. If you are doing it on manual, I highly recommend you guys do this on manual, because if you're struggling, play on manual. And if you guys aren't confident in your manual skills, now's the time to learn how to play manual. All right. So 14.1. 14.1 is going to be the easiest map. This is the one that got everyone thinking like, wow, World 14 is super easy because I can just auto this, right? It is easy. It is very, very easy. But let's talk about some of the mechanics in here. There's a concealment gauge in the game. It's a new mechanic. Basically, the higher your bar is, the less likely you're going to get targeted by the enemy. This works vice versa. It works for you, works for the enemy as well too. It's nothing that concerned about. For most part, you can just dodge, just move around. If you're playing speed like I am with manual stuff, just dodge the stuff, dude. Just move out of the way, Toho style, bullet hell, dodge it, right? It's not that difficult. Just get out of the way. There's also a lighthouse in the middle of the map. What this does is when you step on the lighthouse, it has a chance to put like a little panel on the map when you go into a story that's like around the lighthouse. It will have a random chance to apply like a yellow circle, I believe, and if the enemy stands in there, it reveals their entire concealment, and you can hit them for as much as you want. For the most part, this lighthouse mechanic isn't super important. It really isn't, but obviously though, it does add for something, and it's not that crazy. So just go in there and just do whatever, right? Also, before we go about that, let's talk about the two stats here that you guys should be aware of: recon and airspace. So if you guys don't know already, recon makes it so if this is above the certain amount or whatever, you don't get ambushed. If your recon is below this value right here on the far right, you're gonna be ambushed. So I highly advise you guys to get more recon value. How you get more recon value is that there's this long formula on the wiki or whatever. Basically, it's just stack aviation and stack evasion. Aviation and evasion. Just put more of that in. Don't think too much about the formula. Just stack aviation and stack evasion. Aviation comes from carriers. Evasion comes from mostly destroyers. You guys know the jazz, right? For current ACV, this is for aviation stat. This is for airspace control. This is from like World 12 and 13 here. Just stack aviation, obviously. So if you guys want more recon value and ACV, just stack carriers. Right here, I have 4 carriers with me. This is pretty overkill. I think 3 carriers more than enough to get this done. So just toss in 3 carriers minimum, I think, and then you should be able to fill up this gauge or whatever. But evasion, carry, and aviation will help out a lot. ACV makes it so basically the more you have, less damage you take from planes, and more damage your carriers does as well too. That's important right here. So I highly recommend cap out these stats: recon for ambush and ACV for damage and damage reduction from planes. Very, very important. So cap these out first. That being said, let's get right back into 4.1. So with the lighthouse mechanic being explained, let's talk about the flare bullets. Flare bullets here, let me just go ahead and go into map for you guys. What these do is that you're going to have some fights. Well, there's not some fights. It's going to be all fights where the enemies have that concealment gauge. And if you get into if you grab one of these things right here, what it does is you get 4 ammo, or 3 ammo of flare bullets. And if I'm done lagging right here, it's gonna fire a red little circle. It takes a while to trigger it, but it fires it in the middle of the map for the enemies. If they stand on it, they get revealed. Kind of like Lighthouse, but Lighthouse is RNG and it's yellow. The flare bullets is red. All right, very simple here. And then the boss here is obviously like medium or heavy armor or something. Basically, just bring AP guns or AP torpedo bombers or whatever. and this boss is not that hard at all. 4-1 is a joke. It's very easy. There's not many level 3 mobs here, mostly level 1s and level 2s. That's why it's so easy. It can be blasted by very easy. If you're struggling with 14-1, then I have some bad news for you. You're going to have a bad time. 14-1 is a very easy map for what's to come. Right, so let's talk about the next map. It's going to be 14-2. 14-2 is going to be similar to 14-1. Very similar. Recon value, I think it's 160 as well too. The aviation stat went a little bit higher. I believe it's about 200 higher or something. Yeah, or about 130 higher. So make sure you cap these out, and then you go right in. This time around, there is no lighthouse, but there is the flare bullet still. So plan accordingly. And then this one, again, there's going to be a few more level 3 maps, but for the most part, it's not that difficult. Just use your mob fleet, kill things, play accordingly, and then you can get your 3 stars. It's a very easy map to 3-star. Very, very easy. So you can still do this on lethal. Nothing that crazy, though. It's still an easy map. Just do the same old stuff. Bring AP for the boss. Same mechanics as 14-1. It's just that there's no lighthouse right here, so don't worry about it too much. It's not that big of an issue. Now comes the fun part. So the fun part here is gonna be 14-3. This is the map that was the killer. This is the run killer for most people in the game that did World 14 on day 1. This is the killer map. So what I mean by killer map is that this map here is the introduction to submarine vanguards. And what I mean by submarine vanguards is there's gonna be a lot of submarines. A lot of submarines here. So before we start, once again, recon value 164, aviation is going to be 284 right here. Stack a lot of these carriers, stack a lot of recon value, you'll be good to go. Bring your DDs, this should be fine. And for ACV, try to cap out. It's going to help out a lot. Right. So, submarine vanguards. This is going to be a doozy here. You're going to need hedgehogs. If you guys don't have hedgehogs, I make some of the other stuff right here. I believe it's called like depth charge or something. But having them around is going to help out a lot. So hedgehog here, I believe it's on Kazaguma right now. These are going to help out a lot. You get them from the house event or whatever, Aurora Noctis or whatever. Use them. It's going to be very important to have these around. If you guys don't have them though, make some depth charges. It's going to help you out as well too. But if you guys do have hedgehogs, I highly recommend bringing these. It's going to help out a lot. If you guys don't have them, make some depth charges though. Right, let's get back into it. Vanguard submarine. So again, I'm gonna go into the map and I'll show you guys. There's gonna be a lot of level 3 here, guys. So I recommend if you guys are trying to go for a 3-star clear, if you guys get a spawn like this where it's 3 level 3 maps or 3 level 3 nodes, just reset. Just reset until you get a good start. If you're trying to go for a full clear, do that. But these Vanguard nodes right here, there are gonna be submarines in them. So what I mean by this is that you have to bring light cruisers and you have to bring destroyers. Otherwise, you're going to have a very, very, very bad time. In my mob setup, I have Kazaguma and Shimakaze. So I bring them for these. It's going to be very challenging. You're going to have to whip out some crazy mechanics, but you're going to have to bring that. All right. And the boss here is going to be light armor. They're both destroyers. Bring your HE guns or whatever, right? Or bring those AP rockets for your fighters, for carriers. It's going to help out as well too. Right, so let's talk about some mechanics here because you guys are going to need some mechanics. So 14-3 right here is a killer because a lot of people aren't using destroyers. And if you are using destroyers, you're probably taking a lot of damage. So you have to figure out how the best way to build about this. Me personally here, if you have Aquila, you have Perseus, your 14 experience will be a lot easier compared to people that don't have this. So I'm going to show you guys a sample run of how I do a 14-3. And basically, I'm alternating my burst. So you start off with 3 preload. It is very important because the fight starts almost every single time with suicide bombers. Preload and then just spam rockets. Not spam rockets, spam your torpedoes. After that, you will want to alternate each and every time with your burst. You don't want to spam all your airstrikes at once because that's very foolish. Blowing all your airstrikes on one wave is bad because that means there's going to be a downtime where the enemies are free to throw shell volleys at you, airplanes at you, more suicide bombers, shielded boats as well too. they're going to exist in this game. Yeah, you can defend against that. You're going to take a lot of damage. So that's very foolish. Do not blow all your rotations all at once. Split them up. Separate them. Stagger them. 1 airstrike, 2 torpedoes, 3 torpedoes. Go next. Next wave spawns. Use your BB volley. Drop some torpedoes or drop another airstrike. Go next. Alternate that to make sure you have some kind of burst each wave. The more planned out you have your burst, the easier it is, because you won't give the enemy time to attack. And when the enemy can't attack you, you won't take damage. And when you're running a very fragile team with destroyers and carriers in the back line, you're going to take a lot of damage. One suicide bomber or one shielded ramboat does half of Perseus' health at 125. It is a lot of damage. So you have to be very careful on how you play this map. It is very difficult. So be very wary of that. And if you guys are struggling here, I advise as well, get the low nodes. Level 2 is probably the lowest one you can get here. Get as many level 2 nodes as possible. Avoid the level 3s. And if you have full ammo like I do right here, use your full ammo on the level 3s. And when you're roughly about low ammo or whatever, do the level 2s. And if you really, really need to, grab the flare bullets as well too to help you out. But I recommend saving the flare bullets for the boss. It's going to help the boss set up a lot, unless you're confident in killing the boss without the flare bullets. But it is a doozy for the mob fleet. So I highly recommend get a good reset, play carefully, use your burst accordingly, and you should be okay. I did a full clear about a day ago, and albeit it is very difficult, but it is doable. You have to play very carefully. You have to time your burst and make sure just don't get hit. Do whatever you can to defend your backline, because the moment a suicide bomber or a shielded ramboat hit your backline, or even BB volleys or airstrikes, it's gonna hurt. Basically, this entire map is out to get your backline. Suicide bombers, shielded ramboats, planes, BB volleys, everything's gonna hit your backline. So you want to kill whatever you see very fast, without giving them a chance to do anything. Alright? Now, that explains 14.3. The final map we're going to talk about is going to be 14.4 here. Now, to me, 14.4 is about the same difficulty as 14.3. I still stand by that. It's just this time around, there's going to be a lot more mobs, but you get an ammo node right here, and you get 2 flare bullets. So once again, there's going to be these dense clouds, right? What you guys do here is grab the lighthouse, obviously, but I recommend if you guys can like get them all grouped up or whatever, or save them to like lower 3, or I will fight these at full ammo. Use your flare bullets accordingly. Use one of them, and make sure when you have a flare bullet, attack the ones with the clouds. It's going to help out a lot. Avoid the level 2s, save the level 2s when you have low ammo, and just do that. Again, there's going to be an ammo node here. So what you guys do with this ammo node is you always want to loot it when you're at 4 out of 5. If you guys don't know, when you're above 4 out of 5 ammo, right here I'm 5 out of 5, 5 out of 5, you get a 10% damage increase. So if I'm going to do an attack, I'm at 4 out of 5, I grab this, I'm back at 5 out of 5. I maintain that 10% damage increase. Whereas this gives 3 ammo, right? If I do 1, 2, 3 sorties, I'm at 2 out of 5. That means 2 of my fights, I already lost my... Oh, I'm sorry. One of my fights, I would have lost my 10% damage bonus. So grab this every single time. Keep your thing at full, and you should be okay. Once this runs out, you're gonna lose the bonus, but you had the 10% bonus this whole time, which is good. All right. Now, again, there's going to be destroyers. There's going to be submarines here. Bring your destroyers as usual and whatnot. And remember, guys, if you guys don't know, we do get a free heal. We get a free heal every single day. Use that accordingly. If you're low on health, prioritize the flagship. In this case, mine's going to be FDG. Make sure she gets prioritized on the health. Because if she sinks, the game is over. It's done. All right? And if you're struggling with a fight, remember, you can reset. Reset if you have to. You don't have to take the L. If you don't like how the fight outcome is, just leave and go back in. You lose 6 oil if you're using 6 ships, but it should be okay. Alright? Now, I'm going to teach you guys some of the mechanics here. There's going to be some manual gameplay mechanics. I want you guys to be very careful about this. It's going to help you out. Just bear with me, alright? So, time airstrikes. Time airstrikes right here. I taught you guys in the previous one, 14.3. Use them to burst down the mobs. There's also another way to use your airstrikes in this map. There's going to be a lot of BB enemies in this game, or in this map. A lot of them. And they're going to start shelling at your backline. If you guys don't know already, just like torpedoes and projectiles, you can airstrike those away. So if your backline is in danger, airstrike the moment you see the shells from the BB is flying in the air. And if you want to be super precise about it, there is a split second where the BB fires, and right before it hits your BB, it fires another one. And the moment it fires the second one, airstrike. What this does, it not only clears one BB volley, but it clears two BB volleys. So instead of clearing one BB volley, you get, with one airstrike, you clear two. You get one airstrike value out of that, and you save your backline a lot more health that they can save by doing that. Now, that's expert stuff. I wouldn't recommend it. Just if you see volleys and you're in danger, airstrike them away, and you're good to go. And you also do the damage as well, too. And again, there's going to be shooted Rambos as usual. How you get rid of these, you don't want to face tank them. If you face tank them, you're going to take a lot of damage. Especially if you're using like destroyers, they're going to take a lot of damage. What you do with this is you save your torpedoes, your manual torpedoes. You save them for when you see those shielded boats. They're going to start up in front of the enemy line or whatever, like American football, and they're going to just run at you. The moment you see them, blow your torpedoes. Knock them out, and then just move to the next one. Save your torpedoes if you can for those, because the moment they hit your backline, they're going to take a lot of damage. And the moment you intercept them with your Vanguard, they're also going to take a lot of damage. You want to avoid any sort of physical contact with them, because the moment they touch you, you're going to take a lot of damage. So avoid that. Right, so again, there's going to be 3 ammo here. Clear everything manual and all that jazz, right? I'll show you, I'm showing you guys clips or whatever throughout this whole video to help you guys out, manual gameplay, whatnot, and so forth. And also another mechanic you guys will learn as well too, I didn't show it in any video, it's called collateral damage. If you guys don't know what collateral damage is, in this game, when you do a BB volley, it's piercing damage. It's splash damage. So what I mean by this is when you fire it, it doesn't hit just one target. It hits multiple targets within the vicinity. So if you have like 3 mobs, including the boss, bunched together, unleash your load right there. Because not only do you hit the boss, you hit everything around it. You get bigger value when there's more enemies stacked up than having them split up. That way, because I know a lot of people, when they see the boss mob in the game, there's going to be a lot of things around them. Use that collateral damage to your advantage. When the bosses are clumped up with the others, like when they rotate in circles, because they do that a lot. When they're bunched up with battleships and whatnot, unleash your load there. It's gonna help out. You're gonna take out the mobs, and you're gonna do damage to the boss as well too. So keep that in mind. All right. So it's gonna be a long video. It's about 30-minute long video. I hope you guys understand this video. If you don't, again, I have a run in my previous video that you guys can watch. Again, it's sped up, but there are some mechanics in there that you guys can follow along. For the most part, it comes down to a lot of luck, because you have to reset a lot. But this content is not difficult. It is difficult, but it's not impossible, is what I mean. It's not impossible. It is very difficult, but it is beatable. You don't need all 125s. Some 120s is okay. You don't need over the top gear. Above gear is perfectly fine. The most important thing here is team comp and just knowing how to play the game, and a lot of RNG. So good luck to everyone out there. If you have questions, feel free to just ask me. Don't be dumb and ask me like, oh, Kimo, you're wrong. Again, feel free to contribute to helping the community rather than just trash talk me, and we can make a really good video about how people can improve on World 14, because after a day or two, it's not impossible. It is beatable. So again, good luck, guys. See you guys in the next video, and I'm out of here.